Jsem ráda, že mohu tady v Praze, v Radotíně, přivítat v kavárně Svámího Vishwakurunandhananandou a povídat si s ním nejenom o jeho životě, ale celkově o spiritualitě. Swami, welcome to Prague. Můžete našim divákům představit blíž sám sebe, Bhakti Margu a vůbec vaši roli tady v České republice?
My name is Svámím Vishwakurunandhananandou. It's long, so that's why usually we use the shorter version, Svámím Kurunanda. I'm based in Germany, in the main ashram, Sri Pitanilaye, and I'm one of the Swamis who's responsible internationally, and part of that responsibility includes looking after the Czech Republic currently. So I'm here as the representative of Paramahamsy Vishwanandy.
And can you say something more about Bhakti Marga?
Bhakti Marga, as the name, this is a name given to the mission of my guru. He gave this name about 15 years ago. And it simply means, if you take the words themselves, the Sanskrit bhakti means devotion, means love, essentially, but it's difficult to translate it one-to-one, but I would say it's love in action, love expressed towards the divine, and to act with love in whatever we do. And love is universal, so it's not, even though we are a Hindu, in the Hindu tradition, it is not restricted to any specific religion. It transcends all religions. And Marga is path. So it's the path of devotion, it's the path of love, path of the heart. And it also indicates that it is a path that we have to walk, that we have to act. It's a journey from where we are now back home to where we belong.
To, co je hezké na vašem příběhu a na vašem životě, je, že pocházíte původně z takového toho běžného života. Studoval jste práva, ekonomii, stal jste se úspěšným biznismenem a pak najednou s vámi. Kdy se stala ta změna?
Well, this shows that God's ways are mysterious. Firstly, I would not have expected myself when I started my life to be a monk. This was not my plan. This was God's plan, and it seems like a contradiction or an opposite, but it actually is not, because in many ways I'm still the same. I'm still an entrepreneur at heart, just that my aim has changed. Instead of working for the world, I'm now working for God, and I'm using the same skills, the same talent that God has given me, but in a different way. And it's true that I started as an entrepreneur when I was 20 years old. I was quite adventurous, and I went through many experiences, many ups and downs, success and failure.
Možná kdy vůbec jste v sobě začal cítit takové to vnitřní volání po něčem duchovnějším?
It was a gradual thing. It's not like in one moment that it happened, but as you progress, it's a normal process that happens. Sooner or later, it happens to everybody, that we sense the emptiness of what we experience in the world. It's not, we're looking for something deep, we're looking for love, but it was a gradual thing. It wasn't a sudden change. As you walk through life, you're deep down, you're looking for love. In my opinion, everybody does. We're not aware of it, maybe. But the more we progress, the more that becomes apparent.
When you feel the calling for something higher.
As I said earlier, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened gradually over a period of time. And as I was going down my path of entrepreneurship, originally I was just doing it with a worldly goal, with a worldly ambition. You don't know anything better. You want to make money, you want to be successful, and so on. And innocently somehow we were trying to conquer the world, as they say. Like we were just setting off on an adventure without really knowing where we're going. And you have certain hopes and ambitions, but as you walk and you have your first failures also, when you fall on the ground, you realize that what you're looking for is not what you find in the world. But so gradually you start to look elsewhere, and you realize when the time is right that the world is not going to make you happy. It's something from inside. And when that longing is strong enough, things start to happen around you. So it was also like that for me. And it culminated when I met my guru. So, but why did I meet him in that moment? Was because I was ready, because things built up, developed to this point that it had to happen. He was appearing in my life when I was ready and when it was most necessary. So that's what happened.
Jaké bylo vaše první setkání s Paramahamsou Vishwanandou?
That was a very special moment for me, very important moment, which I will always remember. Many things have happened since then, and some things you remember, some things you don't remember so clearly, but the moment where I met him, I saw him for the first time, is like ingrained in my memory forever. And I just knew, like it was love at first sight. I just knew who he was deep inside. My soul recognized him, and I just trusted him 100%. It's difficult to explain, but I knew that I'm standing in front of love itself, love in person. And then it was a very special feeling, and the first weeks and months of our relationship, which was more of like a friend relationship. He was like my divine friend from out of space. That was very like magical. It's like being in love. Everybody maybe has been in love before, but in a way that is undescribable. It surpasses any human experience.
Jste se Svámím Vishwanandou už 20 let. Jaké to je být se svým mistrem tak blízko?
This is an interesting question. Like I said just before, we met as friends. And so even though I recognized him as being a divine being, our relationship is very natural, like a normal human being, because he allows it, and he appreciates also when we are normal, when we are natural. And then, like in any relationship that lasts for a long time, you go through phases. So also our relationship has gone through phases, and sometimes you are closer, sometimes you are not so close inside, even if you are around and in contact in the outside on a regular basis. Because of my role also, I'm interacting with him on a regular basis. Our relationship inside is not always the same, but deep down it's unshakable. And just recently I somehow tried to go back to the beginning of our relationship consciously, and because what happens is also due to his role, due to my role, due to the whole everything in the mission, you start to be maybe too much in not so natural anymore, not so much in yourself, and that creates a distance that I think none of us want. And so by challenging that and by going back to the root of our relationship and to the root of yourself, it is freed up again, and that's what happened. And I'm very happy, that now I'm back at the beginning, but in a more mature way, with the foundation of of the past 20 plus years. So it's very nice.
Je nějaký příběh, který se vám okamžitě vybaví, když se řekne Svámím Vishwanananda?
Well, there's many experiences, many stories throughout the years, but as I was just before going into the interview reflecting on which experience to share, because not every experience is suitable, let's say. You need more context, you need more background. But I thought maybe one experience is a nice one, a funny one, to illustrate different things. I've shared this story before in public, but I think it's a nice one to share. That is, a long time ago, like before I became a monk, I think it must have been before 2005, Guruji was in Switzerland. That's where we met in 1998 in Switzerland, and over the next years he was spending a lot of time in Switzerland. So this was during that phase, and him together with a few friends and myself, we went, friends of his, let's say, who were connected to Guruji. We just decided to go on a little, like in the evening, to do something fun, just like friends would do. And this is also, even as I'm explaining you the story like that, this is how he is, and this is how spirituality should be. Very natural, very much doing things together with joy, not complicated. So this is, and spiritual doesn't have to be only prayer. It can be just going and watch a movie together. It depends with what intention, what is at the center of what we're doing. So in this case, we just were in a playful mood, and we decided to go to a casino, which is, of course, like not at all spiritual, but you can make it spiritual. Depends how you go in, with what attitude. And it shows also how open he is, how cool he is. There's no place that you cannot go almost with him. And he's not judging, he's including everything. And we spread. We didn't go there to make money or in a serious way. We were just playful. So we had a little bit of money, like maybe 100 euros that I took to risk and say, okay, let me risk this and play, and maybe we win, maybe we lose, like to have fun. And so we spread in different parts of the casino. And I went to the blackjack table because it was the one game that fascinated me the most, and I knew a little bit how to play it, not very well, but enough to sit at the table and play. blackjack. It's with cards, a few people sitting at a table, and it's a game of luck, right? But also a little bit of skill. You need to know the rules, and there is certain probabilities of which make you win more likely and less likely if you know how to play. So I was sitting there and starting, and I wanted to test my intuition also. So I started playing. First I won a couple of times, and I thought, okay, it's working, my intuition is working. And then I started to lose more and more, and it went down, 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 and I had lost almost everything. I had maybe one more round to play, and in that moment Guruji comes from behind. Again, it's like symbolic, because he stands always behind me, behind everybody, supporting when we need. Most of the time he's invisible, he's not necessarily, you cannot see him necessarily, but he's there anyway. And in that moment he shows up when I needed him, and because I was in trouble, I was losing, and he started to tell me what to do, like, take this card, no, yes, no. And I was starting to win, until we reached back 100, let's say, level, the same level that I started with, and then we stopped. So he used his omniscience, because he knew, like, I asked him afterwards, how did you do it? Like, it was amazing, because we were just winning. He said, well, I saw the cards. He said, because they're, of course, hidden, like upside down. But that's not the full truth, because it's not enough to just know what card. You need to also know the game, which he doesn't know. He's not playing blackjack, but he knows beyond knowing. Like, he knows that, which he doesn't show. Like, he knows, his knowing is absolute and of a higher order. So he doesn't even need to know the game to play the game and to know what to do. And he only used this knowledge to help me go back to the beginning point, but not to abuse it to make money, for example, because of course he could use it, but he's not doing that. It's not his aim to gain himself something or to give me an unfair advantage. It was more of a lesson in the teaching to show me that he's there, that he knows, that he's playful, but also to stay, not to abuse something, not to become greedy, not to start craving after the material, let's say, in this case money. It was a beautiful, funny lila, we call it lila, like play, showing how the master works, very humbly, not showing usually that he knows, but when needed, he's there, and he has his mysterious ways of guiding us and supporting us.
Mluvil jste hodně o intuici. Jak člověk v sobě může probudit právě naslouchání toho vnitřního hlasu, když třeba mysl je hodně silná? Jak tomu uvěřit?
It's simple, just calm the mind, then automatically you will hear your inner voice more.
Sometimes it's difficult in real life.
If we think it's difficult, then it is difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. It's actually simple, but we like to make it difficult. We like to complicate it. This is... Firstly, listen to the wisdom of the master. That's where the listening starts. Because intuition has to do with listening to your inner voice. But how can you listen to your inner voice if you can't even listen in the outside? When even to the person next to you, we don't listen even to each other. There's a big problem in this world nowadays. People don't listen. And then, of course, you will also not listen, don't listen to others, so they will also not listen to themselves. So learn to listen, and having a calm mind is helpful.
Často jenom nenasloucháme, ale vlastně na západě vůbec nejsme učeni tomu, proč mít duchovního mistra. Tak jaký je ten hlavní důvod, proč přicházejí duchovní mistři?
Let me challenge you actually on that, because it's not really true in the Western world. I would say it's mostly a Christian culture, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And who was Christ? Who was Jesus Christ? He was a master. He was a guru. So to say that we are not used to the spiritual master or the guru is actually wrong. We are. We just don't recognize it just because we use a different term. If you look at the Bible, Jesus was the master, he was the teacher. That's exactly the term for guru. It's just a different word, and we don't. The deeper reason why we assume that we don't have spiritual masters and so is because in the West we are more mind-oriented, and let's say that goes with the ego also. We don't like, the mind doesn't like the notion of a master because it means you have to humble yourself, you have to listen more to love, to God, than to your own mind and to your ego. And if you're too much in the mind, you don't like that, so you're trying to find ways to avoid that. But if you are sincerely interested in finding love, then the role of the master becomes very important, and you appreciate it because you recognize that he's helping you. That's all he wants. So why be skeptical? Why go against it? It's only because we don't trust. Maybe we've had bad experiences with some masters, but also because we want it our way, So, and we know that the master challenges the ego, and so it becomes a fight there. But the true master you can trust. There's not somebody who is not a true master you should not trust. This is, of course, you have to use common sense and discrimination.
Pokud se na nás dívají lidé, tak říkají si, jak to tady poznám, kdo je skutečný a opravdový mistr.
I think when you stand in front of the true master, you just know, you just feel it. There's no recipe how to do that. It's just clear somehow. But we're not necessarily in the state to recognize, so we are maybe blocked, maybe our mind is closed, full, and then we don't recognize. The master can be in front of you, but you don't recognize him because you are closed. So when the time is ready, you will recognize.
Možná, že pro někoho bude tady čas už za pár měsíců, protože Paramahamsa Vishwananda přijede po 4 letech do Prahy 25. a 26. července. Bude tady mít darshan a také satsang. Můžete přiblížit pro diváky, co to vlastně znamená? Darshan, co dostanou?
So darshan it means simply to see the divine. So it can be seeing the master, it can be seeing the divine in a temple, or even if the divine happens sometimes, not so often, the divine apparition, like let's say Mother Mary in the Christian tradition appearing, that's a darshan also. But darshan, like how my guru is giving it, you are coming face to face with him, and you look at him, you can see him, who is seen as a divine being. So you have an experience, a vision of the divine in this form, and he looks back at you, and he looks into the depth of your being. He sees your soul, he sees who you really are and what you need in this moment. So this is what's happening, and this happens in a very short moment, within seconds. Let's say you're typically 30 seconds, 60 seconds sometimes there's a conversation, but it's a short moment, a very deep moment between you and him, but for everybody it is different. So you never know what's going to happen. It depends how open you are also. And it's a blessing. He's blessing you. And satsang is, like the term itself means, sat means truth, sang means to come together. So satsang means satsang means to come together for the sake of truth. Which in this case, when he's giving a satsang, he's answering questions that people ask. So there's a dialogue, people asking him about the truth in their way, things that they want to know, and he gives his perspective, and the questions can range from trivial questions to very deep questions. I would recommend, if you go, to prepare like the most deep questions that you can come up with, because he can answer them in a way that no one else can. So it's a unique opportunity to get an insight into the deepest secrets of the truth.
Cestujete po celém světě, pocházíte původně z Řecka, kde jste se narodil, vyrůstal jste ve Švýcarsku, že můžete porovnávat s mentalitou lidí. A vnímáte, že lidé stále více mají otázky po tom, jaký je smysl života, proč jsme tady a podobně?
It's difficult to say. In general, I feel that more and more people are waking up and are looking for the truth. So there is a spiritual awakening happening. But at the same time, if you observe the world, there is also the opposite. So there's two forces at play. But I feel more and more people are waking up. Yes.
Máte rozdíl, nebo jaký je rozdíl? Protože já se osobně setkávám s lidmi, kteří hodně spiritualitu a duchovno porovnávají s náboženstvím, ale ono tak není. Tak jak byste to vy podal ze svého úhlu pohledu? Co vlastně je podle vás spiritualita?
Yeah, there is a difference. Ideally, religion would be spiritual always, but it is not always, because religion is man-made. We'd say it's a system which is supposed to connect you with God. That's what religion means. It means to connect. But often in the name of religion we disconnect actually people from God, and so then it is not spiritual. Spiritual means to orient yourself towards the spirit, towards God, towards spiritual reality. And religion should serve that, but it doesn't always do that. And so then religion and spirituality may not be the same. But if religion is doing it properly, let's say, then it's spiritual and it's a good thing. Ultimately, as spiritual beings, which we all are, we transcend religions, and we see that behind the religions it's only oneness, it's one truth. God is one, and He is love, and love transcends everything. But not all religions propagate love, so you can already see that we sometimes think that all religions lead to the same goal, but it's not true. The truth is one, but not all religions lead to the truth.
How do you perceive Czech from spirituality, and because you know many people, so we are a little bit different, our mindset, I think, mentality.
What's interesting about the Czech people is that we can see it that in the numbers of people, there's a lot of Czech people who are open to spirituality. And I believe that this is because of the history of the Czech Republic, also with the communistic phase, and the church not being so strong as it is maybe in a country like Poland. And so that creates a space for something new. And this is what I can observe, that Czech people are open for something new, more maybe than on average other countries. So this is very positive.
It's negative.
No. I think maybe what I observe also is that Czech people, again, because of their history, are sometimes shy or lacking belief in themselves, maybe, and they look for some authority, they look for some orientation, and they are conflicted in that. And I feel that they are searching for their soul, and the more they will find it, and the more they actually progress on the spiritual path, they will find again their confidence, but in a good way, and they will realize that they don't need to follow some kind of authority outside of themselves. This is what we are trying to inspire people for, that when you find yourself, when you find your soul, when you find God, through the help also of the master, which may seem like a contradiction because that's again an authority, but that authority is trying to get you to your higher self, which is love, which is the ultimate authority which we should all follow, love. And I think Czech people are on the way to find that love.
And hope we all find the goal someday. Thank you very much, Svámí. Doufám, že jste si užili dnešní rozhovor, načerpali inspiraci sami pro sebe a pokud byste se chtěli setkat přímo se Svámím, tak budete mít příležitost na Dačanu s Paramahamsou Vishwanandou, o které jsme mluvili v červenci.